Hey, what's up, man? Listen, it's Demorrious. So, man, I think it's been probably about 4 months since I wrote my first ebook called A Better Me. Listen, I have been telling people from Boston to Cali to New Orleans to New York, like all over the place about this amazing book, right? I want to take a moment and really give you the backstory behind that book, right? So you hear my name, you hear the name of my company right there. iamdemorrious, right? So who is Demorrious? Demorrious is a young dude that grew up in Boy Hill projects, right? Um, you know, odds were crazy. Situation environment was crazy. Dealt with some craziness in my childhood or what have you. But nevertheless, even after seeing some of my best friends being arrested in middle school, seeing some of my best friends being arrested, not even being able to make it to high school and things of that nature, um, I was able to now become a two-time graduate, right? Looking at another MBA program to go into with hopes of at the end potentially grabbing my doctorate, right? Um, but not only those things, but I remember distinctly how those chapters in that book literally changed my life, right? I was just doing a business coaching session last night with one of my clients, and I was talking about my book. It's literally like it's almost like that your first child, if you will, that thing that you're so super proud of, and I'm super proud of it because it's so like insightful to me being where I am and who I am to this day. And so we were talking about the book, and I say, everything from my coaching program is literally, me walking you guys through my book. Chapter number one in the book, or system one in the book, is, the power of positive thinking. I remember growing up as a young kid and, realizing that I was a little bit different, right? I was able to grasp concepts a little bit easier. I was able to, score high on tests and things of that nature. But back in the day, that wasn't cool. So I found myself a lot of times literally like dummying myself down to try to fit in, right? To not be that different kid. And I'll never forget to this day, my fifth grade teacher, every time I accomplished something amazing in my life, I always text her or comment, tag her in the post or whatever, and I tell her thank you. Miss Garner, that's her name. I remember Mount Gallant Elementary School, fifth grade. She was somebody who saw the brilliance inside of me, and she wouldn't allow me to dim my own light, right? And when I started going through life, and I thought, man, everybody that I know from the project environment, not very many of them go on to do successful or amazing things. Some of them do, but statistically, it's like you graduate high school if you're able to, and you get a job. But um, I remember her telling me like, "Yo, there's more to you. There's more to you." And there were seasons where, early on, because I never saw it, I would doubt it. Right? I would doubt that I would be able to do some of the things um, in my life. But then I fast forwarded to a place where I was like, okay, what's the worst that can happen? Right? I know the worst that can happen is I'll just end up working somewhere, you know, um, and I've seen that, and a lot of people are okay. So if that's the worst that can happen, let me believe that I can go out here and achieve more. I can go out here and do more, right? And in the process of doing that, it began to rewire my brain. Every situation, I began to think that it was possible. Every environment that I went into, no matter how difficult it was, or no matter what the statistics said the outcome should be, I went in with a different level of belief that I could achieve whatever I set my mind to, right? And so that literally shaped chapter one of my book, like the power of positive thinking. When you think positive, you began to create a whole nother framework that God has the ability to work inside of, or whatever deity you subscribe to, or whatever the case may be. But for me, it's God. And when I think positive, it's like, okay, now there's something else. that God has at his disposal. I'm reminded of the story of in the book of Jeremiah when it says that the potter was sitting at the wheel and he was making a vessel, and when he saw that the vessel was flawed, he broke it down and he built it back up, right, without the flaw, without the blemish. So for me, I'm like, okay, God, I believe that you have the ability to make me whole. You have the ability to turn any situation around. You have the ability to make the impossible possible. You have the ability to do far greater than anything we can imagine or even think, right? Um, for years I used to pastor and used to preach the gospel, and one of my favorite benedictions, I remember it like yesterday, it says, now unto him that is able to do exceedingly abundantly above all we can ask or even think, according to the power that worketh within us, right? And so that power is our level of faith, your belief. And so for me, faith is just another way of saying positive thinking, right? It's believing that the outcome is not going to be detrimental, but this outcome is going to be favorable. So that's how I ended up getting to chapter number 2 in the book, and it literally became my life mission to always think positive, or even if I'm in a situation where somebody is thinking negative, I know that my job is to come in and try to invoke some positivity, right? Because I believe when you think positive, that's when great things can happen. So, chapter number 2 in the ebook, or book rather, is what do you have at your disposal, right? What do you have at your disposal? It tells you how to literally take a moment to step back and say, what are my gifts? What are my talents? What are the things that come natural to me? What are the things that I can excel in with the least amount of effort, right? Um, and God has blessed you with those things that you're able to then, you know, do some incredible things, and not only incredible things through those, but those things be able to bring currency back to you, right? A lot of people today are struggling. A lot of people are talking about how they're not able to make it. And my question to them would be, what are you doing with the gifts that you have? What are you doing with the talents that you have, right? Like, what are you doing with the things that come easy to you? Are you doing something with those things that it might bring back a harvest? Um, I remember, early on, I was preaching or preparing for a message, and in that particular message, I was talking in the book of Genesis, and it was talking about these four rivers that flowed into one, and I remember getting excited, getting ready to preach this message, and then God convicted me, right? He convicted me and said, "You're preaching this message to your people, but you're not even explaining it as deep as I want you to. Like you need to really let them know that inside of them there are multiple rivers, right? That's why you hear today it said, the average millionaire has like 7 streams of income. Now think about the word I just said, streams, right? Streams, rivers, right? They have these things that are flowing. And so God was saying, listen, inside of you are multiple of things that I've blessed you with, I've gifted you with, I've skilled you with, and you have the ability to tap into those things, monetize those things, and change your life for the better. Now, like many of us, we say, okay, that's great, I feel you, but I know what those things are, but I don't know how to do it, right? I don't know how to tap into those things. I don't know how to release those things that I might see the return that you're talking about. And that's why chapter 3 came about. Chapter 3 is about mentorship. Chapter 3, the title is Mentors Help Make Better Memories. Um, I remember that I was excited about my call to ministry. I answered my call to ministry, and was gung ho, but I didn't know how to balance being a young husband, being a father of young kids, pastoring a church, going and out and serving and things of that nature. And so it caused some early conflict, right, in my life, because I didn't understand, and I just looked at it from my perspective, right, of how things should be, how things should go, not realizing that my decision to make this huge leap had greater impacts or implications on my whole family structure, if you will. Um, and it was only when I really found a mentor in Bishop Crump that did ministry a little bit different. Now, Pastor Thompson was my mentor, my spiritual father, taught me all the things about, ministry in that standpoint. But Pastor Crump came along and taught me that no, you can go to your son's baseball game. You can go to your daughter's dance recital. You can miss some of these things as it relates to church. You don't have to be the sole driving force, to do this, because God has just called you to lead it, not to be it, right? Um, and not only that, in my businesses, right? I've been doing photography for years, and I was just doing it on a low level. I started doing videography, and I was doing it on a low level, but it was only until, I got a business coach, I got a business mentor, in Chris Jackson, right? Who came in and literally showed me how to dream even bigger, how to think even bigger, and how to structure things, and not being afraid of investing in things that'll help those things happen, uh, you know, at a crazy speed, right? And so then that takes me into chapter number 4. Chapter number 4, it talks about dream, draft, divulge. I just did a video yesterday in New Orleans. That's why I'm so no, I think I did that video Sunday. Today is Tuesday. But nevertheless, I did that video, and I was talking about me being in New Orleans after flying into Charlotte and, going straight to New Orleans. And I talked about my son. My son has a dream of playing for Tulane University football team. And, I understand that, in order for some of these things to happen, there has to be sacrifice. But I told him, I said, in order for you to see this dream manifest, you need to dream about it. You need to, draft it. You need to write it down. And then you need to tell that dream to somebody who has the ability to help you get there. Now, me being his father, of course, he tells me the dream, and it doesn't matter if I, hadn't slept in my bed for a week because I've been traveling. As soon as I get to Charlotte, I'm going to grab him and we're going to go to New Orleans, because that's a part of his dream. That's a part of his plan that he drafted, right? And he divulged it to me. And therefore, we took a tremendous step forward in getting some collegiate evaluations and making some contacts and things of that nature to preferably make his dream come to pass, right? So for me, I was challenged this week to say, all right, Demorrious, you know what you want to do in your businesses. You know what you want to do in your video production company. So therefore, this week you have to draft that thing. You have to write it down. You have to tell somebody who has the ability to help those things come to pass, right? And then we'll slowly start to see, or even fast, see those things begin to happen, because that's the way my life has been. I dreamed about college at one point. I wrote it down, and now 2 times I've walked across the college stage grabbing a degree, right? Because I dreamed, I drafted my plan, and then I divulged that plan to somebody. And my plan for that was that my wife, shout out to LaKendra, gave her that dream. She pushed me to even go back to college the first time, and I didn't know how I was going to do it, but we drafted a plan, and here I am, a young boy from Boy Hill Projects, 2 college degrees, right? That may not be anything to you guys, but to know where I came from and know that I've been blessed to have that level of academic success is something that I'm forever grateful for. Then chapter number 5 is one of those things where, it says you've been permitted, right? You've been permitted. There's some things that you're going to dream about. There's some things that you're going to desire to do in life, but you're going to be afraid. Even with your mentor pushing you and saying, hey, this is what I know you can do. This is what I know will happen if you step out. Sometimes we're still afraid, right? We're still afraid because a lot of times the things that we want to do, we haven't seen anyone do them. And so we're like, man, and you have this fear or this anxiety. The Bible says, be anxious for nothing, but through all things, through prayer and supplication, make your requests known, right? Like you have to trust that you have the permission to go out here and excel, right? You have permission. And that's what the book talks about in chapter 5, saying, in order to build a business, you need a permit. In order to tear down a building, you need a permit. In order to drive a car, to learn to drive a car, you need a permit, and then it transitions to a license, right? So there's certain things in life that you have to go through processes to get permission, but God is giving you permission to go out here and go after the things that you've been dreaming about, you've been drafting about, and the things you've been divulging. You have permission to go out there and get it. Just do it, right? That's what Nike said. Just do it. And then lastly, um, chapter six. Chapter six is probably one of my favorite chapters because it's a chapter that will allow you to get up and keep going. Chapter six is okay, you tried it, it didn't work. So what? Try it again, right? And I talk about, you have to know that maybe it won't work. Maybe, you tried something, or one system was wrong, or one system wasn't quite the way it needed to be for you to see the outcome that you desired. That's fine. Go back, make that tweak, make that adjustment, do whatever you have to do. And once you make that adjustment, go out there with the necessary changes and do it again, and keep doing it, and keep doing it, and keep doing it until you refined your systems and your processes and gotten yourself in a place where now you're able to see the results that you've been after. Listen, I'm Demorrious. I keep forgetting it's on that side right there. That's me. That's who I am. I am Demorrious, where my desire, my goal is to work with individuals and businesses to help them become the best version of who they are. And that's why I walk them through these systems right here, because if you walk through those systems, I guarantee you have no other choice but to be a better version of who you are. Until we talk again, let's go.